Hello 911, what's your emergency?
Hey buddy, this is a Kanji FPL and I need you to send a memory eraser and time machine, man.
Sir, 911 is for emergencies only. Are you in danger?
Listen buddy, I played a fantasy Premier League and the Arsenal defense is kicking my butt, yaar. Week in and week out, man.
I hope you guys are out there laughing along with me. How's it going, guys? It's your boy Kanji FPL, and welcome back to the channel where we discuss Fantasy Premier League. This game week is going to be crazy because we've got a double game week for two of the best teams in the league, for Manchester City and Liverpool. There's a lot to discuss. I mean, think about it. There were some injuries that have happened over the midweek in Champions League, and in fact, we had a return to training for one of the best players in the league. So there's a lot to discuss, especially that triple captaincy chip. Is it going to be on the table? I feel like a lot of people are going to be playing it. So what are my thoughts on that? We'll break that down in the analysis in this video today. Let's jump right into it. First things first, I just have to say thank you. I am so appreciative. I'm so grateful for all the support and feedback that I've received so far. And honestly, I've reached the 100 subscriber milestone and it's huge. I'm so grateful. My goal was to get to this milestone when the season ended. So to be in this position today, I'm just very thankful. So thank you so much for all your support. I'm going to be releasing a Q&A session video just so you can get to know me a little bit better and hopefully answer some questions that are non-FPL related. So if you have anything that you want to ask me, just drop it in the comment section below. Also, if you have Twitter, just follow me there because I posted this on Twitter yesterday and I got around like 20 replies to my tweet of questions that people want me to answer. So I'll be using that as well. And I've gotten a lot of questions, so I can't wait to go attack that. And again, I just wanted to say thank you so much and appreciate all the support that you've given so far. All right, so let's jump right into the FPL analysis, and we've got to talk about my favorite player in the league, Trent Alexander Arnold. He's a generational talent, and unfortunately, he has re-aggravated a knee injury, and this news is coming from Paul Joyce, a very reliable source. And so it does seem that Trent is going to be out of the Carabao Cup final, which also means he's going to be out of the double game week as well. Now, because Trent has re-aggravated an injury, I don't have any insider sources, but to me, I just feel like he's going to be out for at least 3 to 4 weeks, and I think he's a definite sell. If you want to hold on to somebody like Trent, because he's a wonderful differential, I mean, he's probably one of the best FPL assets of all time. He gets defensive returns, attacking returns, he's just great on bonus. So I think if you want to hold on to him, you can, but he's just very expensive. I mean, you've got to have a crazy squad to hold on to somebody like Trent. And I feel like there's just so much upside in this double game week that you just have to capitalize on spending that money elsewhere. And I feel like taking hits to bring in the likes of players like KDB or Foden, maybe even going to somebody like Virgil van Dijk. I think these are going to be players that we need to discuss. So in terms of long-term replacements, I've got 4 that come top of mind. I think immediately if Trent is going to be out, I think you want to stay with a double game week for Liverpool. I think Van Dijk is definitely an option. The thing with Van Dijk is he's nailed. He plays every single game, regardless of people that are coming in and out of the team. Him and Alisson are their spine of the defense. He always has the ability to get a goal or an assist. The thing with Van Dijk is he's not just goal threat. You know, like with somebody like Gabriel, who plays for Arsenal, he's been scoring goals recently. So I think that is kind of what Van Dijk can do. It just shows you a reminder of what he can do. I think in the last double game week last season, I think he put up 25 points in that double game week, 2 clean sheets, a goal, bonus. I think Van Dijk has huge upside, but I think people are sleeping on it. So personally, this is my number 1 option. And I think when I recommend and I talk to other people, if you have the ability to have 6.5 in your defense, I'll go to Van Dijk. All right, guys, I'm currently in the editing room and I wanted to emphasize something that I said. I think I went over it too quickly, but I want to emphasize what I meant. When you're looking to pick your Trent Alexander-Arnold replacement, you should be really focusing on the players that you want in your team long term. Like the way that I'm looking at my squad is that I would want Salah, Saka, and Son long term. These are going to be the 3 mids that I definitely for sure I'm going to want longer term. And I think I would want to put that Palmer position in there as well. I think it's hard to go against players that are going to be fighting for top 4 that are also on the penalties. I think they're going to be optimal FPL picks to hold for the long term. So if you're able to get to these 4 in your mids and you're able to get to somebody like Virgil van Dijk in your defense and have some extra money to spare, that's a luxury position. But I think most of you won't have the same squad value as me. I think my squad value is 105.0. So I think if you don't have the same squad value, I probably wouldn't go to Virgil. I'd probably go to somebody that's cheaper, so I'd be able to afford these mids long term because I don't think I'd want to sacrifice the ability to get to them. Now, the other player that I think at this price point is going to be Kieran Trippier. Now, Trippier has pros and cons. He has the same attacking upside as somebody like Trent. He has stronger upside than Gabriel or Van Dijk. He has assist threat. He's on the set pieces, on the corners. He's wonderful in the bonus. But Newcastle's defense themselves are just terrible. I don't know. Eddie Howe seems to persist with Dan Burn in the left back position, and he just gets cooked week in and week out. Like, it's unbelievable. So I don't know what they're going to be doing there. I just think that doubling up on Newcastle defense, because most of you will probably already have Dubravka, I don't think is really worth it. Though I think in isolation, I think Trippier is probably the best defender in FPL right now. Now, it just comes down to money. Like, what is the opportunity cost of spending that money? And I think if you went for somebody like Gabriel, who probably will have similar expected points as somebody like Trippier over the next couple of weeks, I think over the season, Gabriel could just prove to be a better value asset than somebody like Trippier or Virgil van Dijk. And I think week in and week out, Arsenal have been killing me. And I think Gabriel was my favorite asset last year. And I think going into this season, he was underpriced at just 5.0. I think I wanted to start the season with him, but because of the news that apparently he was going to be out of that first game of the season, I sold him. And since then, I haven't really been a fan of Gabriel because I just think that there's a chance that Arteta will just rotate him, especially with Timber coming back to fitness. So there are risks with Gabriel that people aren't going to be talking about because of all of the returns that they've given to FPL managers recently. But I think Gabriel himself at 5.0 is a wonderful pick. It's hard to go wrong. And Dallo would be my differential shout. If you're looking for something spicy, I think Dallo is great. I think when you look at Manchester United's next 5 fixtures, I expect 4 of them are really good. They have Man City in there, so obviously you would bench Dallo in that fixture. So of those 5, 4 are great. And in those 4, I'd probably expect 2 clean sheets. Honestly, I would. And I think I could expect 1 attacking return from Dallo as long as he plays every game. So I think Dallo would be a wonderful differential if you're looking to go down that route and you are a Manchester United fan. But apart from that, I don't think many people are really going to be going to Dallo. I think you'll focus on, if you're going to spend 5.0, 5.1, Gabriel will be the option for you. But for me, I am more so leaning towards Virgil van Dijk. And I just think that the upside of this double game week is huge. I've seen what Van Dijk has done in the past, and I think with him, it's not just goal threat. He has the ability to play balls in behind the defense. He also has assist threat because of how great his passing is. And so being the captain of the team, I think, listen, it's hard for me to not go to Van Dijk because I think this is Klopp's last season. And when I'm making a transfer with Trent, I don't have my wild card in my back pocket like most of you do. But if you do, then I think there are some short-term alternatives that you could go for. The first one in my list would be Nathan Ake, because we've got Gavardio who picked up the injury. He's out for 2 to 3 weeks. So Ake is the only Manchester City left back. So that is going to be a great alternative. The other alternative that I would talk about would be Connor Bradley. This is going to be Trent's understudy, the actual replacement for Trent in the squad. Now, the players that can play right back would be Joe Gomez and Connor Bradley. Now, Bradley came into the team against Chelsea, absolutely killed it. Goal, assist, played wonderful. I'd never heard of Connor Bradley before this year, but the way he's come on, he's amazing. And if Trent is out for a longer period of time, I think having somebody like Bradley at 4.1, I know he takes up a Liverpool spot, but he could just become a dead spot in your team at 4.1. So you bring him in for the double, and if he eventually gets rotated in and out of the team, you can just bench him. He's not taking up too much value in your team, but he may become a dead spot, and that's like the downside of going to somebody like Connor Bradley, but I think he's very explosive. He's not really a defender. He has attacking upside as well. Speaking of someone that also has attacking upside and is very cheap, Alfie Doughty. This has got to be my number 1 replacement. If you're looking for a short-term replacement for Trent, this is where I'd be going, and I'd be looking to spend the money to try to upgrade my mid to get to KDB, who I think is going to have the highest upside of any player in this game, apart from Haaland this week. Because I think Doughty, he's very consistent. He always has 2 or 3 open play crosses. He's on all the corners, all the set pieces. I think he has attacking threat. And if there's ever a chance where there's a cross in the box and it misses out of bio, it could fall to Doughty on the back post because he does get up there. So I think, again, it sounds weird to bring in a Luton defender, but at 4.5 with a double in 25 and a double in 28, you've really got to consider Alfie Doughty. Now, I have to caveat this where it's very chip dependent. It depends, like, when are you going to use your chips? Do you have enough players in game week 26? Because you have to think about, hey, if I bring in Van Dijk, he has a double this week, but he blanks next week. So it's really just 2 fixtures in 2 weeks. So it depends if your team also has somebody to play in 26. So you have to look and determine what's the best option for your squad. But for me, personally, I'm a big fan of Van Dijk. I'm a Liverpool fan. This is Klopp's last season. I want to own as many Liverpool players as I can. I think there's huge upside in this game week, but also over the course of the season. I think Liverpool are first or second favorites to win the league, and I think it's hard for me to look past Van Dijk. Honestly, when I was wildcarding, I was considering Trippier and Van Dijk, but instead I went for Trent because I wanted that huge upside and I wanted that differential. And so it breaks my heart to see Trent get injured, but it is what it is, and I've got to roll with the punches. So I'm going to be bringing in Van Dijk, but Virgil isn't the only Liverpool player to consider. I think I really just wanted to give you a breakdown of what my thoughts are on this Liverpool double game week. So let's just start with from a defensive perspective. Van Dijk easily higher expected minutes than anyone in the squad, and he has attacking threat. Now, there are alternatives. Konate doesn't have as strong attacking threat as Van Dijk, but he is probably the first choice pairing with Virgil. Though you could have somebody like Joe Gomez who could slot into that right center back position, and Gomez could also play in that right back position. So there is risk to going for players like Konate and Bradley. They're not 100% nailed. Now, the one player I definitely have to discuss is Andrew Robertson. Now, I have so many wonderful memories. I've owned all of these players in FPL at some point. I've owned Konate, I've owned Trent, I've owned Virgil, I've owned Robbo. I think Robbo is a really interesting topic because he's going to be on all the set pieces. He'll be first in line without Szoboszlai and without Trent. I think if Robbo plays both games in the double, I think I would pick Robbo over Virgil. So I think in the short term, Robbo is probably a better asset than Virgil if you're assuming they have the same minutes, but I am not. Because of the fact Liverpool have the FA Cup final against Chelsea after the Luton game, I'm assuming that Robbo will play the Brentford game, be benched for the Luton game, and then start the FA Cup final. That is what I'm assuming. So to me, I think Robertson will be in a void, though I think he's a spicy differential. On all the set pieces, he has very strong attacking threat, and in fact, because Trent may not be in the team, Robertson can be more advanced. So we'll have to see how that plays out, but I just think if you have to make your transfer right now, I would just lean to Virgil or Bradley if you're looking to save the money. The main thing I wanted to discuss has got to be Mo Salah. He is back in training. However, it's not full contract training, meaning that he's not 100%. Like the thing is with Liverpool is that they are the first game of the game week. They have the early kickoff, so we'll be able to know based on leaks if Salah is going to be in the squad, is he going to be starting, and you'll be able to make your decisions about what to do. But for me, I just think that this fact Salah is back in training means that there's got to be lower expected minutes for all of the other mids, Jota, Diaz, players that I have in my team that I think they'll be able to match Mo Salah. But the fact Salah is back, it just means there's less minutes for some of them. We don't know who's going to get rotated. Is Jota going to be starting up top now that he's in form? Is Darwin the number one option because he has been nailed for minutes? Does that mean less minutes for Jota even though he's hot? Or does Diaz come into the team because, Darwin and Jota are playing better than he is right now? So there's a lot that I think you can't control in this situation. I think what I would do is double up on Liverpool attack, have one defender, and I think that defender option is going to be optional. I think it's essential to have at least one Liverpool attacker, and I think you really want to spend your money and get to the triple Man City. Whether it's going to be KDB, Alvarez, Foden, Haaland, I think you need to have triple Man City in your team. So given the fact Salah is back in training, I think it just puts a damper on captaining any Liverpool players as well. So I think Haaland's EO is just going to be shooting up higher and higher given the fact Salah is back. And now we've also got to discuss Alisson is also back in training, meaning that Liverpool are more likely to keep clean sheets because he's just a world-class shot stopper. I mean, think about it. When Liverpool were in their form of their career over the last 2 or 3 seasons, they weren't, putting up the best XGC statistics. They just had Alisson, who was back there making big world-class saves, saving 2 big chances every single game. That is what Alisson does. That is why Trent was a great asset. That's why Virgil's a great asset. It's not just because of them. It's because of the team and having Alisson back there. So I just think with him being back, that's what makes me even more confident of bringing in somebody like Virgil and keeping them long-term. The next question is going to be, is it worth selling Watkins or Solanke to get to Darwin Núñez? And I think Darwin is really interesting because I think he's going to put up an XG of around 2.0 in this double. It's not going to surprise you at all. The question is he going to convert those chances? And I think Darwin has massive upside. Like he can go out there and score 3 goals in this double. He has the ability to score 1, pick up 2 yellow cards. Like Darwin is crazy. Like it's literally chaotic. You have no idea what to expect. Like you're excited when you own him and you're also frustrated when you own him too because you just expect more out of him. But I just think over the next 2 or 3 seasons, Darwin will be a great pick. But I think in this exact position right now, given the fact Salah is back, I think it just makes me weary because when I think about making a transfer on a striker position like Watkins or Solanke, who I think are better long-term picks than Darwin, it's really about can Darwin outscore Watkins or Solanke by -8? Because I think each transfer is going to be -4. And I think when you bring Darwin in, that's going to be a -4. And when you sell Darwin back to Watkins or Solanke, that's another -4. So can Darwin outscore Watkins or Solanke by -8? And my answer to that is probably yes. But is it worth the risk? Probably not. So that's just where I'm thinking, and I'd rather just focus my transfers on like a defensive asset and bring in the double Liverpool mids. Those would be the two players I would prioritize, and I'd focus on just holding Watkins or Solanke longer term, just because I feel like moving to Darwin isn't going to be a long-term move. It's a short-term move, in my opinion. And lastly, are Jota and Diaz worth a -4, given that they blank next game week? That, again, it's very team dependent, but for me, I think Diaz and Jota are easily going to score 10 points. I think Darwin will likely score 10 points, and I'm going to assume Jota and Diaz will definitely score 10 points. And I think if you think they're going to score 10 and you take a -4 for them, it's still going to work out for you long term. So I think it's a good move, but you have to look at, is it worth bringing them in, getting the extra points this week, but then also taking another -4 to sell them? So you really have to look at the way that it rotates with your team. Moving on from Liverpool, the other team that I wanted to talk about that also has a double game week is Manchester City. I mean, there was an injury in the Champions League and Grealish went down. Bernardo has a knock, but I don't think it's a big deal. But Grealish is actually out. So this means good things for Doku. Doku's minutes are going to be going up. In fact, if you don't have Kevin De Bruyne, who I think should be your #1 transfer target this week, if you don't have the funds to get there, I think you can go and have some fun and go pick up Jeremy Doku. We've seen what he's done in just a single fixture before, picking up 2 assists and a goal. I think he put like a 20-point haul like maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago. Doku has huge upside. The link up between Doku and Holland isn't as strong as it is with Grealish and Holland. Doku, I think, is more selfish. He's more direct, and I think that's a good thing for Man City, but potentially not a good thing for Holland. Whenever Doku's crossing the ball to Holland, he always puts it too high. His end product is never at the same level as somebody like Grealish or Foden, but Doku has huge upside. His ceiling is just as high as any other Manchester City mid. So I think if you want to be spicy and you don't have the funds for KDB, go to Doku. You got my approval for sure. Gvardiol's injury means that there's going to be higher expected minutes for Ake. And so if I'm looking to make a defensive transfer from a Manchester City perspective, I would focus on Walker first because I think he's the better long-term asset. And then my next option would be Nathan Ake because he's going to be starting at left back. And I think because he's so cheap, you'll be able to just rotate him in and out of your squad, play him when you think you want him, bench him when you need to. And lastly, Ruben Diaz, who I just think is Man City's best defender overall. The thing that's really interesting to discuss is going to be Julian Alvarez because Alvarez wasn't playing in the Champions League, and I really felt like that lineup of Foden, De Bruyne, and Haaland is the best 3 Manchester City players over the course of the season. Like, if you're a Manchester City fan and you're out there and you're thinking to yourself, like, I want to own Manchester City players now, I want to keep them for the season, I think the 3 to go for are Foden, KDB, and Haaland. Regardless of who starts, who gets the minutes here and there, I think those are going to be the 3 best City picks in terms of points. Now, in terms of value, that's a completely different conversation. But when I think about the second striker that I want in FPL, I want to own someone that's on the penalties. And for me, with Alvarez not having that, I just don't think it's worth owning him. Now, Alvarez is playing every single game in the Premier League. So even though he was benched in the Champions League, didn't play, I think, a single minute in the Champions League game, I think Alvarez is still a wonderful pick. But, and in fact, I think in that Brentford fixture, like Pep has this tendency to play the same lineup that he did in the previous fixture, like earlier in the season, and he'll have the same tactical setup if it worked. And because they beat Brentford, I think he'll have the same setup where he's going to play very attacking. And I think Alvarez, because he was benched in the Champions League, I think he'll get 2 starts in the double game week. So if I had Alvarez, I wouldn't sell him. But I just think in terms of the long-term optimal Manchester City picks, I don't think he's in that. And so I would keep him from now, but I'd be looking to move him on very soon. I guess the key thing to discuss is going to be, is the Manchester City defense worth it? Like, is the juice worth the squeeze? And for me, overall, I just don't think so. Like, they have great attack, they have great XGC conceded statistics, but at the end of the day, some of them are not even nailed. Even Walker isn't nailed, and he's been the most nailed. Ruben Diaz is easily the best defender in the team, but now John Stones is back. So there's just like too much rotation risk that I feel like it's not even worth considering them, even though in my mind, they're probably the best defense, and I think statistically they're the second best defense. So because of the rotation risk, I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze, so I would just be avoiding Manchester City defense. That's why when I wildcarded, I brought in Triple City attack. And lastly, are Manchester City mids worth a -4? Like, is it worth a -4 to bring in Doku? Is it worth a -4 to bring in Foden or KDB? 100% yes. Like, go ahead, go take the -4s. Listen, there's a double game week for 2 of the best teams in the league that have the highest upside. If you're not going to take a -4 to bring in a Manchester City player, what are you doing? Like, City can easily go out there and score 5, 6, 7 goals in this double game week. I mean, when you buy a player like that, you're kind of just like getting a ticket to the lottery. and you're just hoping that the ticket that you got is going to be the number that's called. So it's one of those things where I would take a -4 and just go have some fun this game week. Now, transfers are just very simple. A lot of people are going to be targeting Manchester City players, they're going to be targeting Liverpool players, but the key decision for me, and I think for most, is going to be, is this the time to triple captain? And I think when I look at the 5 different opportunities, I think Game Week 36 is not 100% confirmed, but I prefer Son over Palmer. So if there are 4 options, I think those would be the ones that I would pick. And then if I was thinking about these fixtures in isolation, I think Solanke has the best fixtures. I think he's the best player, probably has the most upside. But I think Haaland's upside in these fixtures is capped. When I look at this Brentford fixture in isolation, Brentford are going to sit deep. In terms of game state, if City score 1 early, there's a chance they could absolutely batter Brentford because Brentford are in the bottom 5 teams in terms of expected goals conceded. So if they score early, they will score often. And I think that's the thing with Haaland is like the fear that's going to come along with this, because I'm looking to see FPL Mate's video to see like what is the percentage of people that are going to be triple captaining Haaland. My expectation currently is that Haaland will be around 250% effective ownership. Now, I don't want to let effective ownership and fear drive my decisions. The way I should be looking at it is like, hey, whoever scores the most points is the player that you should be captaining, regardless of effective ownership. And I'm just thinking about this Brentford fixture, and I'm thinking maximum, that's 1 return for Haaland. The fixture I'm really scared about is the Chelsea fixture. And the fact is that both games are at home, and City's conversion rate away from home is lower than where it is at home. At home, it's just very high. I'm expecting them to score probably 5 or 6 goals. Haaland will have a floor of at least 2 returns. So do I think any captaincy alternative for triple captain options can get at least 2? I think Son can. I think Saka could, but I wouldn't 100% rely on that. Even though they are playing much better now. With Odegaard playing much more creative, I think it's unleashing Saka. They basically run Arsenal. Like the link up between Saka and Odegaard is what will carry them to a title. If those 2 guys stay in tandem and stay on par together, the way that Odegaard glides across the pitch, it's like those 2 they could easily be like one of the best duos in the league. They aren't right now, but they could easily become that. And so, there is potential to triple captain Saka as well. But honestly, I just think Heung-min Son has got to be on the table because even in big games, like they're spacing behind. So to me, I know Saka has one of the games at home, but I would rather captain Son away. Now that game is not confirmed, so I'm just gonna genuinely cancel out Son and Saka in terms of captaincy discussion. I'm just gonna be discussing Solanke and Haaland. So I just think Haaland has a floor of 2 returns in this double, and I think would I be annoyed if he only picked up 2 returns, got like 10 to 12 points? No. But last year I triple captained Rashford, and it was very obvious. Like I found that Rashford was just so in form. He had Crystal Palace and Leeds last year, and it was just so obvious to do it. The thing is that Bournemouth have not been as attacking as they have been in previous weeks. Like in the earlier half of the season, they were scoring goals week in and week out. And now they haven't been. So I'm nervous that what if, Solanke ends up being like one of those like Dennis players from Watford, where he just gets like 1 return, gets a red card or something. Like my season would get ruined. And I just think the fear of what Haaland can do is really what's driving me to triple captain Haaland. And I think the upside of Solanke is higher than Haaland, even though Solanke has worse expected statistics, even though he's plays for a worse team and he's a worse FPL pick. I just think he can at least match what Haaland will do in terms of output. And I think if I had the guts, I would captain Solanke. Now, something that also comes to my mind, I shouldn't really be like keeping this as a factor, but as a content creator, like I've been getting 4 or 5 red arrows on the bounce. So will people that are my viewers in my audience think that I'm a bad FPL manager if I'm just getting red arrow after red arrow? Like, does that sway me to, get some sort of green arrows now? So that way people will think that, hey, he's a better content creator because he has a better rank. He knows what he's talking about. I shouldn't say that that is a factor, but it's genuinely something that I'm considering in my mind. But regardless, at the end of the day, I want to triple captain the player that's going to score the most points. That is the thing I have to consider. I think Solanke can probably outscore him, but it's just safer to take 2 returns and just live with it. I think Solanke's effective ownership, again, it's going to be around 210%. I don't think people will have the guts to triple captain somebody like Solanke because he's not a household name, even though this would be my favorite triple captaincy alternative to Haaland. So I'm just thinking about this. Like honestly, I think I'm just going to be triple captaining Haaland. It just feels like the obvious choice. It's 2 games at home. You're probably looking at 2 returns. Just live with it and move on. And it's not out of choice, it's more so out of fear from my perspective. In previous seasons, when I had the guts and I felt like there was a good alternative to Holland, I would do it. But right now, Solanke just doesn't feel like that's that guy. And I feel like if I'm going against Holland, I have to go for somebody like Salah. And I think Salah, his double game week is going to be in 37, and that's when I'm looking to bench boost. So to me, it's just very obvious. In this position, I have to just triple captain Holland, and I think that's going to be the decision that I'm going with. So going into my game week 25 team selection, my transfer was Trent to Van Dijk. And if we look at my defense, I mean, listen, my team as a whole, there are tons of doublers here. I would be completely surprised if I got a red arrow, given the fact I have, triple Man City attack. I've got the double Liverpool mids. I've got Van Dijk. I think Saka's a great single player. I think Estupiñán versus Baumann is my only decision. And I think when I look at the attacks that they're playing, so Newcastle's playing against Bournemouth, and I think Estupiñán is playing against Sheffield United. So if we look at the statistics, this is provided by Rob T FPL. And if we look at the Brighton fixture, which is going to be right here, so you're going to see that Sheffield United are expected to score 1.15 expected goals. And now if we look at the Bournemouth fixture, they're expected to score 1.35 expected goals, meaning that playing a defender that's playing against Sheffield United is better. And on top of that, Estupiñán has more attacking threat than Botman. So it's a no-brainer for me to play Estupiñán over Botman this week. And that's kind of what my only decision is. So I think going forward, I think it's not about is Holland the right captain. The question is, do you have the guts to triple captain Holland? And I think it's going to be very obvious to most people to do it. And for me, I am very skeptical. Like, it doesn't seem like a no-brainer to me at all, but it's just the fact that I can't triple captain Mo Salah as the alternative that I feel like I'm better off just living with the results of Erling Haaland as my triple captain. So this is the way that I'm set up to go into Game Week 25, and I'm hoping that you are excited for Game Week 25. Lots of doubles, lots of upside. I can't wait to see what happens. All right, guys, so that is the video today. Thank you so much. If you stayed all the way to the end, you're a real one. Thank you so much for all your support. If you could just drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all again soon. Peace.